All right, so here we are at the halfway point in 1743. Not the halfway point in the game, just the halfway point in 1743. And what has happened? The Austrians chased the Prussians around a little bit, and, well, the Prussians went first, which is why they were able to be chased around. But the Austrians chased the Prussians around a little bit, really kind of had them on the rope, heading out towards Königsberg, some threat of an automatic victory that way. But the French sliced up. De Saxe was unable to win his battle, but he went on to Magdeburg to try to free that from the Austrians. Meanwhile, the French army has moved up here. It's hopeless. This one's under Noailles because the English are going to play the Louis card. Well, whatever. Meanwhile, the Franco-Bavarian army has seized Vienna, which neutralized any chance of the Austrians being able to win some kind of automatic victory. They're back down in the negative victory points where they should be. That's where they deserve to be. No, they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to be in positive victory points at this point in the war, right? Maybe ever. I guess that's about it. Not a lot happens when you start looking at it from a narrative point of view. A whole lot happens when you start looking at it from dealing with, trying to make choices between the cards and everything. And, so it's a game with a very high burden on the player to narrative value. And I would argue to strategic value as well. Like with the coin games, you're spending so much time on each individual decision that because there's far too many of those meaningful decisions, right? But anyway, leaving that aside, that's a general complaint about CDGs largely. I'm finding the scripting to be causing an interesting dichotomy for me, which is, it feels like this game, the more and more of the kind of more random events have been offloaded into some of the cards. Not a huge amount, but more than were in Clash of Monarchs. And that is an attempt, I think, to improve or increase the amount of player agency. But the amount of, restrictions on the play of cards, number of cards that you have that can't be played, that you get at a certain date or whatever, that you get way too early, puts you in a weird position where you're trying to calculate out when you're going to get that card next and be able to play it and all kind of stuff like that. And also I have the feeling that a knowledge of the deck could be incredibly powerful here. So for example, knowing that there's a Louis Must Lead card, and that the British have almost certainly gotten it in their hand at this point in the game, if they haven't played it, and it's not in the discard pile, and I don't know if you're allowed to observe and examine the discard pile, but you know that they've had an option to have it in their hand, right? So there's a possibility that an attack like this is just going to fail. And that starts creating a really weird sort of, I don't know, disincentive to taking certain actions, whatever. I don't know how much I could really do with the French, to tell you the truth, otherwise. Now, I'm safe as long as I made my way into Austria, right, with my big armies. If I make my way into Austria, if I'm no longer in whatever Germany is defined to be, then there's no problem whatsoever. I'm pretty sure this space is Germany no matter what, though. And yeah, so we're going to, end up having that army recalled. Now, if I had known that that card was in existence, right? And I did, but I'm saying if I'm playing the players as if they don't know what the decks are. If I had known that there was a historical certainty that Britain has that option available to them, then I don't know. I don't think I would have engineered the attack the way I did. What I might have done, instead of being here, tried to get myself somewhere in Prussia or something after the attack, instead of ending up here, just so that I'm across that line and Louis can't be called in anymore. Right? Now this is crazy shit to me. It would have been hard to engineer that way, but I think possible, especially if I'm willing to take if I'm willing to have myself thrown out of supply, because I could trace into Prussia here. So if I was in this space, I would be immune to this attack. Now, I wouldn't be immune to it. As soon as I moved into here, I would be in problem land again. So, yeah, it doesn't really protect me. I was thinking, if I could just get one attack in with that big army, I'd be advantaged. Nah, it's not that easy. All right. Anyhow, that's some idea of where we are. We've got a bunch of demoralized forces between seasons because Frederick had to go early, got beaten up by the Austrians who go after him. But the Austrian here, Bernclau, is also demoralized because the French went after him. The sequence of play is set in such a way that you have demoralized forces kicking around. Compare this to like the Victory game, Civil War game, where it's pulsed. Players take turns. Players take turns taking turns. Right? It's not like, you have, one season or whatever. You have a couple months. Each turn represents a couple months, and you're taking different operations back and forth. And then at the end of that sequence of operations, and it's a similar situation to this, you can end up demoralized. That can put you at a disadvantage where somebody else can hit you if you're off balance. And what it means is you have to do something to recover. Now, I don't think demoralization is as big a deal here, just because of the way the combat chart works and the damages work and whatnot. But in that game, at the end of each turn, which roughly would correlate to one of these seasons, everybody recovers. Instead here, Prussia would be at a disadvantage going first under that kind of circumstance because they would get beaten up by Austria, then they would get beaten up by British. That still happens, but now at least the Austrians end up getting beaten up by the French, and then the Prussians are going to have an available capability to hit one of those Austrian forces that has been hit before. But it all has to do with the fact that each player just gets one player turn where they do all their actions. And there aren't a hell of a lot either. They play a card and get to maybe move 2 or 3 forces at most. So, it's just a different paradigm, but it feels really weird when you go, 5-6 months and you can't recover during that time. And not believable. Not believable in the sense that, if the force in the winter is in that bad a shape and doesn't recover, they probably have disintegrated. They probably have attrited quite heavily. And then the other side of it is, no, there is no other side. I've already said everything there. All right, I'm going to plug this sucker in, and it's time to play Raid or do other things, maybe enjoy the last of this very gloomy day. I really ought to go shopping tomorrow, but I don't know. I could have gone yesterday, and I didn't. So, whatever. Oh, speaking of little complaints and stuff, I'd been suspecting this in the back of my head, that because I keep seeing French cards that allow for Russian diplomacy, but they're play once cards. Whereas the Allied ones are not, then it would be impossible for the Bourbons to get control of the Russian diplomatic marker. Well, somebody just pointed out that the lowest it can possibly go is -3, and that is with best of luck and all kind of stuff like that. It can never reach the point where it's marked. Now, Bob Kolinkowski is saying, oh, okay, that's definitely an error. Not sure what the fix is. One of the options was to set it at -3. I think actually the easier option is to just allow those cards to be replayed. Allow France and Prussia to continually expend effort on a losing cause. Well, after raid and quite a bit of sleep, not a huge amount, but it's after midnight now. I ended up, not a huge amount of sleep, a fairly heavy amount of raid, I'm guessing. I ended up coming back down here. I have less than an hour until something exciting happens that I can go deal with. But, so we're at the beginning of the fall campaign season. It's Prussian turn. What are the Prussians going to do? Well, I almost certainly, if I want to move Frederick and his force is a 30 strength .1. I hope I counted that right. It's a nice big force. I need to bring that to bear against something. Now, what do I have that I could fight? I could fight Traun. He's no longer better than me. At least there's that. All of my cards are either cards I want to play for an event, or ones that I want to play for an event or affect battle cards and whatnot that aren't in play yet but will be next year. In fact, I think the events are all late too. Well, one of them's not. So I'm going to actually burn a battle card that I can't play yet. This is a hell of a good battle card, but you know, you got to do what you got to do, and it's only a 2-point card, so it's less valuable than some other things. That gives me 7 actions. Frederick isn't more active. He's just a better general, more cautious. And the first thing we have to do is we have to spend 1 + 1 is 2 to rally. Now, we could have rallied in other circumstances by just waiting, but we want to do something. Now, we have a bigger army than Traun does. We're a better leader. We'll be the active player, so we get to decide that we're going to be the defender because Traun's worse on attack, and move in that direction. This here, I can't really do a damn thing about. That's fine. I could do an administrative move with this. I'm going to hold. I got to do that now, actually. I'll swap these two. Glotz is worth a victory point. It's probably more valuable to defend. Where do I want to push? This is an interesting question. Do I just want to thrust up and destroy these? Or do I want to chase Traun around? Traun could win a battle. He's got cards. I got cards. He's probably played his. It's not going to be additional distance, but it's an additional battle, which is kind of painful. I think we go after Traun, see what happens. If we do that, though, we have to make a decision with our supplies, because we can't run out of supply. We have supplies from Glogau. That's an important factor. If we were just coming from here, I couldn't get to these, but Glogau can cover these. Okay, so we're good just moving in here. Now the question is, first of all, does Austria have interrupts? But also, do they want to fight or not? So the answer is no, they don't. Traun's at a disadvantage in the fight. I would have loved to have fallen back to here to try to cover this, but I don't have a supply route anymore in that direction. So falling this way does what I want it to do, and we'll see, you know, maybe Traun comes down and deals with the French or something like that. If the Prussians are going back into their own territory, I feel like we want to let them, but we want to slow them down, so I'm leaving a garrison at Dresden. Prussians aren't good at sieging. Chasing Traun seems like a fool's errand. What do I have for points? I have 1, 2, 3. This would be an overrun, but then I can't get there yet. But he is out of supply and probably should have a short supply marker on him if he's of any size, which he's got to be. That's the Army of Lorraine. I don't know when that happened. No, it doesn't. They're getting supply from Leipzig. Oh, that's interesting. If they're getting supply from Leipzig, I can fall back because then I have supply off both of these. All right, that changes Frederick's decision. He needs to pursue Traun. So he goes forward again, ignoring Dresden so he can get as far as he can. Traun will try to make another withdrawal. He's got a +3 on the die roll. He's very likely to do it. He succeeds again. But I can't give up this space. That's the problem. Like, this is key to my supply line. All right, we'll fall back to Berlin. Getting another strength point. We're still in supply, right? Off of what? We're in supply here. We're in supply here. Okay. So Prussia pushes forward once again. And Traun could fall back on Leipzig. Or fight. I think I've got to fight it trying to save the Army of Lorraine here. Like squeaky outside. Sounds like a guinea pig to me. Like weep, weep. What are you? Okay. So Prussia's going to attack. We have to compare battle ratings. And this is the Prussians, not the French, so the Austrians don't have an advantage there. And leadership values, the French are at plus, or the Prussians are at +1 for that. That's it. Unless, oh, cav. I have 7 Prussian cav to the 12 Austrian cav. So the Prussians are at +1, but they have a bigger force. And they get a better die roll, but it's 10% either way. I'm guessing the Prussians win this fight. Austrian army falls back to Leipzig. It was 4 hits to 2. Not a major victory. Now I have the choice to go chase Traun. He's likely to get away. So I only have 2 points left. I could move in and attack him, or I could move in and attack this. The Army of Lorraine. The Army of Lorraine is very weak. It's out of supply, though. No, it would be out of supply if I take Leipzig out of their hands. I think I keep going after Traun. But I'm not sure what the supply is going to do to me. Like, I think they can keep doing their siege out of supply, but they'll be behind my lines and having trouble. They'll be easier for me to deal with, and I've got a warn penalty, but this has a demoralized penalty, which is -2, as we can see from here. There's no cost to them walking into Berlin. It's already burned, so let's go in. Of course, the advantage of this, of hitting them where they're sieging, is they're already sieging there. So they're in trouble. The disadvantage is it's possible that the Austrians could spew a depot and maybe push it, like they could spew one to here, 2 away from this, and push it forward. So maybe I want to garrison with Prussians. Garrison Berlin so they can't just throw a depot forward. Is that worth it? That's just going to get overrun by the Larignian army. So yeah, it's not really a safe thing to do. All right. Am I in supply here? Oh, I am not. So I actually can't push that way. No matter what, the French can't supply that army. It's only like 5 strength points that they can supply, regardless of the stacking cards and whatnot, from my understanding of the rules. Okay. Well, into here we go instead then. And I guess the army of Lorraine will face the worn Prussian army. Oh, no, they don't want to face. Wow, they got a +2 siege. Do I have a chance? Do I have any chance? This is the army of Lorraine. It's going to be so outnumbered in so many ways. It's got to try to run. It's not going to take 5 hits, though, so it won't be a major victory. And they succeed in fleeing, I guess, to here. But my supply was cut already when this moved there. Now, I don't have to... I don't get any additional markers there. All I get is that one short supply. But my supply was cut when the Prussians took Berlin. There was no supply coming out of there. And so now, I'll leave that strength point there because we probably want that. I've got one more move from the Prussian army. I'll push it back into Berlin where it's safe. We take a look. We're in the rally segment. These 2 markers finally go. This one finally goes away. The Warn I just accumulated, but I get that back for free. Now the Austrians are in a world of hurt. They're trapped in an ugly place, and I'm going to be facing the initial supply segment there. But Prussia has another point. I could do an admin march. I'm going to send a strength point to join Frederick. 1, 2, 3, 4. This isn't the free one. The free admin. This is just a normal. So I'll send another strength point there. I see something that confuses me. Why do I have Prussian cav over here with the infantry? I had them stacked on top of there. I'm hoping I didn't remove them as an infantry. Again, that would fuck the force pools. I may need to reassess those, you know, partway through the game, count all my counters and all kind of stuff like that. So, Frederick has marched back, has relieved the sieges, and has put the Austrians kind of on bad footing. That gets us to the initial supply segment, where you do have to check supply for all major forces. Now, I think I'm in supply this way. I think I restored my supply with that retreat. Okay, so I'm in much less bad situation. What do I know about Poland? It's an interesting question. There's no rule on Poland. I don't think they're mentioned anywhere in the game. Which means they're not Italian, so they would be a neutral that I cannot move through. And this makes some sense. When the Russians show up, they don't show up in Poland as they do in a lot of games on the 7 Years' War that I'm used to. They're able to transit Poland. Think about Freddy the Great here, for example. But because Poland was essentially politically a mess. But here, I think the Russians come in. Let's see. Let's take a look at their role. They show up somewhere in each case, and that'll help me decide whether or not Poland can be entered. What was it? 7.7, Russia. The Russian turn comes after. Russian forces trace supply. Okay, not good. British control. Russians are placed in Bremen or Antwerp. Okay, I guess they sail over. That doesn't help. Austrians, they enter at Olmütz, Brunn, or Vienna. These are all... Brunn is here. And we know where Vienna is. I don't know where Olmütz is. Oh, there it is. The stacks were hiding it. Okay, it's beginning to look really, really bad. And then the French, they're going to show up in Königsberg? Yeah. So, conceivably, they're passing through Poland to get there. But, you know, you don't know. They're not allowed to stage an attack from Poland. They're not allowed to use it the way Russia's using Belarus, or used Belarus. Still vaguely using it. Okay. That gets me to the Austrian card. This was a big card. And you can see, I mean, sure, maybe your play will be quicker or whatever, but there's a lot that goes into the play of a single, you know, the activation of a single force, right? Multiple battles, whatever. And then a card can do other things as well. You might have, with some good cards or good leaders, you might easily have 3 forces being activated by a single big card. But this was a particularly intensive card play. So the question, though, is, can I supply through here? I can't move my army through there. But how is the supply rule worded? I'm making up that I can't move my army through there. It may be implied in the rules, but it's not absolutely clear. But how do I trace supply? It's through areas where there's no enemy forces. So I am able to supply through there, even if I'm not able to move my force through there. Now this is somewhat problematic, but if I can get my supply through here, yes, I can go to Glogau. I would be able to do this anyway. And it becomes kind of a priority to try to take Silesian territory back, just to get my forces together. Jump onto bonus activations, which are a little weird, because I've got a card that gives me like 7 bonus activations, which is, you know, a humongous major campaign. I think the biggest major campaign I've seen is a 6, other than that. They don't call it that. And it's a play once card as well. So I looked up bonus activations. If the event's played in summer or fall, the bonus activation must occur immediately. So it's like major campaigns, I don't think they say bonus points on them. One of them might have. Here, I had one. I don't know. Do I have a major campaign somewhere? I don't know if they do, but yeah, I don't know. But the thing with bonus campaign is that when you play it, you can take them as if you play it in the event phase, you get it in the next summer or fall campaign season, whichever comes first, unless it's one of the special ones that says you can play it, you can use it for winter, and I think those are probably winter cards. So if I play it as my campaign card, it's not really a bonus, it's just that many points, right? Is there any limitation? Not really. I mean, campaign points are campaign points. There might be limitations on specific cards. In fact, some of them definitely have it. The other thing, and I guess the only special thing about bonus campaign points is that you can get them and they can carry over to another turn if you play them in the wrong, as an event or something. That's kind of interesting because, like, if I played it in summer during the event phase, the event card phase, I could collect a huge number of bonus campaign points and play a big card as well and do a whole lot in the next phase. That might be very helpful when I'm entering a war or something. One of the points of that is I'm so fatigued after doing that one action, and I know the next action is going to be big too, and I'm like, I've run over my time. I could be doing whatever I planned on doing in Raid. I'm pretty sure it's time for that. But I think I should do the Austrian turn right after. I just feel like I will be too confused otherwise. And whereas the French and Spanish, the French and English, and Spanish for that matter, and Piedmontese, they're all in their own little world, in a sense. Yes, the French have oozed over here. Ooh, is that a target? Not really, because Freddy can come in now. So I think I'm going to spend a 5-point card. What do I want to do with it? That's a good question. I could try to cut French supply here. This is the Army of Flanders. That's fucking huge. Of course, the French suck, but... So, one of the points is definitely... Basically, I have a 3-point card that's my card that could be a 7-point card. But I have Brown and Tron. Brown definitely has to move. Tron, not necessarily, but I think I want to try to consolidate my forces. Although what for, it's hard to tell. I don't have any winter campaigns planned, or in my hand, and I want to make sure I'm in supply, because this is guaranteed to be the attrition card, right? The attrition, let's check because I've done it both ways, right? Check the supply status of every 4 short supply on those that can't, every 4th SP. Oh no, this is the bad one. So winter attrition's not the bad one. When the attrition shit is revealed, check the supply state of every major force on the map and play short supply on those that cannot trace the supply page. Then, remove 20% of the SP from all major forces in Italy and 10% from those outside of Italy. So, oddly enough, yes, I thought it was winter attrition that bit into everything. I did this, I think, probably right throughout the game. It's this shit that causes attrition no matter what. It causes more if you're out of supply. So, obviously, I want to make sure I'm in supply. But yeah, my choices are basically between... I got a bunch of 5-point cards. Now these regaining the crowns are actually maybe less important to me, but they're nice battle cards, and I don't think I want to sue for peace. I'm not allowed to now. I have an able advisor, which is a useful card. I could just do brown with that and keep all these other cards. That might not be a terrible choice, because I hit my rally segment, I recover. Yeah, I'm a little off my footing in terms of positioning, but is that terrible? kind of is. See, the problem I have is Tron is stuck between Frederick and Noailles here, both of which can beat me up. They're bigger than me. Noailles is not as good a leader. Tron might be able to win a battle against him. So there's some consideration there, right? Down here, I have a force that's too small for this. Brown is too small for that. Everything is facing bigger forces. And with the exception of this Tron versus Noailles, more effective forces. Now, there may be an exception down here. He might be a better force. And I believe I'm allowed to move Piedmontese with the Austrian. I don't know. Someone's able to move someone that you wouldn't think they should. I don't know. Who are the Saxons on the side of? The Saxons are on my side, on the Austrian side now. And then I have, you know, like a guy like this who's just really there as a garrison. He actually isn't serving any purpose. I might want to move him in a strength point up into up here to Nice, simply because in a major fortress he serves a purpose. So gosh, I just don't know what I'm doing. I'm so handcuffed. Do I want to spend... So I don't want to spend this card. It's too valuable in too many ways. I like the mounting power. I might want that big pile of cards. These guys are good in battle. Able Advisor is useful if I want to put somebody like Brown in charge of Charles's army or something like that. I don't really need this. Treaty of Dresden is a big 5-point card, though. But I'm having real trouble figuring out anything I want to do with a big 5-point card. So I think I'm just going to activate Brown. Now the thing is, with the 5-point card, I could activate him, or I could activate Charles. Do I know, like, the English can probably lean over and say, hey, I'm going to be sending Noailles back, so don't abandon the Netherlands, you know? We're going to make that part of the fight there. So that's a consideration to take as well, which is very, very problematic. So I think I'm just going to go with this. And what that means is Brown is awesome with 8 points. Let's check my supply situation. Everybody is in supply right now. I'm allowed a free admin march, which I shall take. Getting a force and a leader up here. These guys will recover on their own. Wow. I guess I took him along with me somehow. So I move into Glogau, where I can't be intercepted or dealt with. That's one move. And now it's a minor city. I siege it, etc. We're going to fight our way down and try to regain as much of Silesia as we can. I've successfully taken Glogau, Schweidnitz. I shifted the extra guy from here as well with the admin move up to here, just because I can. This was an Honors of War, went here. This is an Honors of War. Now I'm going to figure the closest fortress to them that they can go to. 1, 2, 3, 4 is that. Do I have anything over here that I could go to? I don't think so. So I think I go up and I join Leopold up here in Kustrin. And that is the entirety of the Austrian turn. Well, that's their campaign card. Now I get to rally, and then again, I check supply, and I'm in supply. I'm in a fortress here, so I don't have to supply, etc. I don't feel like I did as much with the Austrians as I thought I was going to, but I know I didn't do as much as I thought I was going to. I just couldn't figure out something I could do with all these disparate forces except bring them together, which might have been a wise idea. Good sign that I'm doing things wrong after I recover. There's no supply of any interest. We put this here, and we'll put the dice up there. Just that somehow helps remind me. I don't know. One thing that all those that lets me know that I'm probably doing something wrong is I only have 3 army boxes for the Austrians, and right now I could use 1, 2, 3. This is not a tiny force, although that's admin movable, but it can't be used when it admin moves. So that's 3 there, right? Plus 1 here and 1 down here. I really feel, though, that the Austrians probably need 1 more box. Just like the French have an auxiliary army, I feel like the Austrians could really do with another army box somewhere and another counter. There's, just to allow you this kind of flexibility. 5 is probably too many, but I think 4 would probably make sense. Brown able to operate on his own down here. Tron maybe grab, see, this is the thing. I've got 3 armies here. Not 3 army counters. One of them's in Italy. I'm using the Lorraine one that should be over here within Austria. But am I doing that badly? I've got my victory points back down to -4. Granted, I'm doing okay there. The Prussians are at -1. The French have a shit ton, as do the Spanish. And a big part of the points that I'm missing is because Vienna is being held by the French. And I pay no further price for that. As long as I can keep the French Franco-Prussians from getting to that 26 or whatever, I'm okay. I looked at the regaining the crown track. The 4 space that I go to if the French fail to take Hanover and can't play their card, which looks pretty likely, that's just Francis gets crowned. And all the goodies all happen at once. It's basically France failed to make any claim for the Bavarian elector at all. And it's all because the English refused to kind of buckle under to Franco-Prussian pressure. Interesting. Time has passed in significant quantities. It's now Thursday morning, somewhere around 2, I'm guessing. And so a big jump in time while we're in the midst of the fall campaign season and got to figure out what the French are doing. I'll do the French and English here. Then it might actually already be time for me to do raid, but I want to get some in. This game is such a struggle to cope with, as is obvious. Anyway, let's go. French choice of cards is they're going to play the Prince of Conti card because they can't be played until after Fontainebleau's played. I don't have a lot of good choices of cards. This is one I know I can't play in the near future, although the way the deck is now, I may be putting it off another year or whatever. But it gives me 5 big points, which is important because I need 2 for Noailles. I need 1 here. That gives me 2 more. Is he a 2? Excellent. So there's my 5 points. Now, as I play this, or at some other time perhaps, why is this an interrupt? It's an interrupt because it's a fleet sortie underneath. But I just don't feel like Assault on Louisbourg should be an interrupt. Anyway, can't play that. I'm looking for Louis must lead. Now, this card has some questions. It's an interrupt. Let's take a look at what interrupts say as rules. There's all kinds of them. 2.3, 634, 655. 2.3 I don't think is going to tell me much. 634, 635 were the other two, maybe? I don't know. I'm bad at remembering. 634, interrupt restrictions is 635, and interrupt is, well, no, 655. Down there. Okay, interrupt restriction. An interrupt allows that card's event to be played during any phase or segment of any player's power turn. All the conditions must be met. There are really none here. Well, there is. Play 1743 or later. It's 1743, so I'm meeting the restriction. At the moment it's met. Interrupt cards generally allow the player to either do something that benefits the power or cancel and impede another power's abilities. Okay, nothing there about this. I'm playing this as soon as he plays this because he's got enough points. And this is what a player may only play one interrupt per activated enemy force per power turn. So that's interesting. That leads me to believe that I can't play it on the card but must play it on the force, which would answer the question I had. But may play multiple interrupts in a single power turn if multiple enemy forces are activated. So I think that's an implication of what was of an answer to my problem, which was the way this card is worded, it makes it sound like this thing had to be activated in order to play it. Let's see how it's worded here. If Lewis is... No, that's not it. No, this is not. It's the George must lead that has the weird thing to it. And it's really weird because these are two cards that are essentially the same. George must be placed on the largest British force on the map in Germany and remain for at least 2 seasons. If played as an interrupt, the British force always uses its original commander's initiative rating, but any APs already expended are subtracted. No such statement here. No such statement here. What does that mean? Oh, I'm playing this as an event, so I don't get the little ship here. Oh, no, I'm not playing this as an event, so I get the little ship. I get a French something. I get a French fleet sortie, which is actually not on any battlefield, so I'm going to put it there. I hope I remember. I don't know. I'm not going to be looking over there. I'm going to be looking at the hand of cards. But yeah, so I don't know what happens. So here's the problematic situation. If I activate Noales and Louis is there instead, does that charge the 3? If I play this when he plays the card, I'm not sure I can do that, right? Because the George card works really well with the interpretation that the interrupt is played when a force is activated. That's not what's said here. Here it says it may be played during any phase or segment of any player's power turn. It's that simple. Whereas this seems to have an implication that you can only play one interrupt per activated enemy force. Nothing about doing it on friendly turns or anything like that. Again, contradictory rules leave me with an issue. I'm going to make up that the George rules are applicable. Nah, fuck that. The George card has its own special rules. So this card, because I wouldn't be able to see the George card when I'm interrupted like this. If I activate this, and that is my focus, I do believe that is my focus. Oh, wait, yeah, Noales would be my focus, so I would activate him. So going by the limitation here, I don't know whether or not he could play this before I activate that, or if he has to wait until I pay the 2 points. I'm going to roll a die for interpreting the rules. Odd, I can play it when he plays the Prince of Conti card before he activates that piece. Okay. So, what that means is Louis is now here in charge of the army of Flanders. It is the only army in Germany, and that's the restriction here. He must remain CIC for the rest of the year. His army loses 1 AP per activation. Okay, so now I'm put in a more troublesome position. I have a 5-point card, and this is where the difference goes. And do I want to move this unit or this unit? Before, I would have been able to take all 5 of these. Following the George card, I would, I think, be forced into being able to have them. Because the die roll turned out the way it did, I think this was played at a different time. And now I could choose not to activate Louis, which is what I'm going to do. If he was able to play it beforehand, I'm going to do that, because the only thing Louis can do is run back home to within 3 spaces of a French blue space. Well, that's not going to allow me to do what I need to do. So I'm going to try to make my decisions with these 2 leaders, who are 3 points, and that leaves me with 2 more points to allocate. Now, at the same time, while I was figuring out the card I want to play, before I could play it, I have to decide on my depot situation. My depot situation is fine for the plans that I had. So I would not have constructed my additional depot, nor would I have thrown away a couple of cards to get another one. So there's that. What else do I have? I have 2 more points that I can spend. That there's not a whole hell of a lot I can do with them. But I could activate a force with a portion of Louis' army and use that to attack Hanover. Who do I have there? This is the army of Flanders. I have Noailles and Broglie there. As long as I leave the majority of the force with them, I can take 11 strength points and march out of Louis' space. Feels cheap, but again, if he plays this before I define my force or anything like that, well, that is the consequences of the way that the dice fell or whatever. Should he have waited? Maybe. But if he had waited, I don't know what happens. Okay, and let's keep looking at this. That army loses 1 AP per activation. Well, I'm not going to be activating that army. Okay, then I'm going to spend 2 points, activate Noailles and Broglie, and move them up to Hanover. Now, the Allied army is potent comparatively, right? I don't know. This is impossible for me to count, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 19, 20, 29. It's a bigger army. The Brits have a better quality. And I don't know what else. But I have the same initiative, so at least I get to choose. I'm bringing the additional leader along in case I have a bonus leader thing come out of there. So we have 6 points available. I spent 1 to move in. I'll be spending 1 to attack, and we'll do the battle. It's being a little bitch, and I had to go smack it around a little bit. Okay, so doesn't matter which side is which, but the French will choose to defend because it seems wiser in general. The battle card came up where a subordinate DRM is going to be available for each side, but even though I brought an extra leader, that's not good for me because he has Ligonier here. Now, he could have played something and forced Georgie in there, but George is not that bad. So I'd rather wait and use that in case he moves. So we got that. And the Brits are going to play this, which is some kind of French bungling. Subordinate bungling on a 1 through 5. They get a -2 to their battle roll. Okay, so the French value is +2. The British value is +3. So it's British +1, British +2 +3 for the army quality difference. So the British are at a base of +3, the French are at a base of -2. There's also a cav bonus for the Brits, so they go to +4 to -2. And they have the larger force. They have a multinational force, but the Brits are the majority. I don't have to worry about Hanoverians and Danes and all that. They all count as Brits. Okay, so I said +4. That puts me at a 6, 15%. -2 gets me to 2%. Wasn't expecting numbers like that. Neither side is greater than 31 strength points. Obviously, the Brits are going to win. 15% there, again, because of the rounding rules, they're not going to be able to hit. They're actually at 29, but even if they were at 30, they're not going to be able to hit the 5 point, so it won't be a major victory. To leave the Louis must lead card. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's a marked card. No, and it can be played multiple times because of that. I wanted to leave that face up the way I've got like this face up and some other things. Maybe, I don't know, nothing else. But I can't. I have no way to remind me that that card is played and in existence or anything like that. So what do I do? Because it has restrictions on it. He must remain or move north of Saarbach, and he may not move further if Louis' army is in the battle, mitigated by Louis' advisor. It did not. So, if Louis' army loses an advisor, loses a battle, I lose a victory point. That I have to remember. He must remain as CIC for the rest of the year, which might actually mean he gets shifted to another army, because he's the CIC in Germany. I don't think he's allowed to leave Germany, the German front. All kind of stuff on that card that I have to try to remember. I've got no mnemonic device to do so. I just have to memorize that. Okay, in addition to that, I have to fall back. What does that mean? Well, there are two possibilities. Either I demoralize Louis' force, or he recovers mine. And I don't remember which it is. There's a situation in which a larger force can rally a smaller force. And I don't think I'm going to see that under the rally rules. 14.2, 4.23. Which means I'm going to have to start hunting the rules. An activated command can rally by spending. Here we go. If a what is this? Splitting or combining warn and demoralize. If a warn or demoralized force combines with a force in good order that contains the same or fewer SPs, the resulting force is also warn or demoralized. If a warn or demoralized combines with a force in good order that contains more SPs, the warn or demoralized is removed. So essentially, Louis takes these guys back and says, you disappointed me, but you're all good. We're fine with what happened. If I don't combine the forces, I don't rally. I don't really want to fight another battle with that force. Might I want to move in and join De Saxe, who's got the auxiliary army. Well, I could do that. I think I'll wait. I can always split these off for another battle. So, speaking of which, we're just going to stop there because we can't pick up Louis' forces. That would be taking command of him, and we can't do that. But I'm going to spend one for De Saxe, handle the siege, and then I'll try to figure out what the fuck to do with these buttheads. I think they have to move on to Jabrunn and try to put pressure on the Austrians that way. I remember the way this went. I succeeded in I succeeded in losing a strength point off both forces, and the siege marker's at +2. But I think now I'm at the automatically can win the siege situation, and I don't remember because that's a weird rule. It changes the cost of a siege one way or the other. Either it changes a minor to being 2 APs and you automatically succeed, or a major to being 1 AP and you automatically succeed. It just feels so weird. It's like, I wish the rule wasn't different. I wish it was just you pay a certain amount depending on the type of city it is. And now I have to hunt for where that rule is, and that's not trivial to find. I don't remember which one it is, and I've had to look this up before. Does it really help you to have me look? Probably not. It does help express my frustration with the rule by special case, little tiny bits of shit all over this thing. I've looked this up before. I've hit it before. The besieging player must spend N another AP to conduct a minor siege and capture the ungarrisoned fortress. So I'm on the 4 space, and I take Magdeburg, and that means, now I have to think about the points. Austria owned it. Austria loses a victory point on map, and Prussia gains one. Why is Prussia at 0? Because they have gained nothing and they have lost nothing. Perfect. I assume everything's good in the world then. Me with a couple of action points left. I got a hard call here. Do I want to attack just with Saxe, hitting Hanover? Well, 7 of these strength points have been used already. 12 of them have not. I have 7. I could move through here, pick up 6 more, and launch an attack. I couldn't do that, though, because I'm only allowed to have a total of 12 strength points under a minor leader. But I can move through there, pick up 5 more strength points, and attack. And I think that's what I want to do. Other options could be, I could join Frederick. It wouldn't be a multinational force because there was a card that I vaguely remember allowed France and Prussia to operate together. But, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure that the French are not allowed to trace supply to Prussian areas beyond 5 strength points, which would mean that I would have to leave some of my forces behind. Now, what if I attack Cumberland here? I think that's what I'm going to go for. I did not pick up any of the cavalry, which means they lost a cav. So this 2 cav is freely available to me. Will 4 cav help me? He's at 2, 4, 6 as I hunt through this. 4 cav is exactly what I need to avoid another penalty. So I'm going to walk through here and here for 2 more actions. That leaves me 1 that I can attack with. and I'll redistribute the troops, and we'll do a fight of Saxe versus Cumberland. Battle card this time, and again, Saxe will be the defender, why not, is once again a maneuver. Add one subordinate leader DRM. And there are a lot of these. Like, this was the 5th card down, not the one I just put on top, nor the one I put on top the time before. There's a fair number of these. So there's a good reason to have subordinate commanders with you. I couldn't take one because everybody that I could have picked up had already moved, and therefore they can't go again. I can't grab Louis without it being Louis's activation. This is bad because while I'm a 3, he is also a 3 then. And the Brits don't have any special cards left anymore. They couldn't have played the one they did last time against Saxe. So we're looking at +2 for the Brits, and I think that's it. With a larger force. And so they get a 7 is 15%, still not going to do it, and he gets a 10%, so Saxe also is going to be defeated. I forgot to roll for leader loss checks. Fuck me. I'll be back. So Saxe is defeated. There's a warn marker now because he did damage. The Brits did not take any damage on the initial attack, that 2% hit. I don't have to withdraw to here, I think. I don't think I have to withdraw to the place I just came from. And even if I do, I don't have to become part of that force. But I'm going to, because that rallies me, and I don't have enough movement actions to do anything of value. So we will recuperate those. And I still have another army to activate. I'm already pooped trying to cope with... I haven't even moved a piece yet as far as I'm concerned. I haven't finished this card. Ah, shit. I actually had... I had Seger with me. I forgot this is the auxiliary army. I had Seger in there with me. It's no big deal. The Brits had rolled an 8. A 7 would have been 15% as well. So he's there too. As are all of these French forces rejoining. And the auxiliary army is gone. This is not disordered. Even though every unit that's gone through there, except, I don't know, there may be a strength point or two that hasn't. But everything has become disordered at one point or another, but they're like bootstrapping each other, doing reach arounds or something weird. Forgot about the one action point or movement point cost. So Malbois left some Bavarians back here, marched into here. The English were unable, the Austrians were unable to do a withdrawal. They're going to have to fight a field battle now. They actually couldn't have withdrawn all their troops anyway. They would have had to leave a couple strength points behind. He's not able to command the entire force there, but that's okay for battle. Somehow. I think. This battery's about dead. It's good defensive terrain, so the French will be taking that, having the better initiative. Again, I'm going to default to you go to defender unless you have a reason not to, but also it's ambiguous or not defined as to when you actually make that decision. So, whatever. So this is the French attacking the Austrians. We're at -1 for army rating, but at +1 for command capability, which puts us at a 0. What about Cav? They have 2 Cav. We have more than 4. So it's going to be +1 for the French, -2 for the Austrians. Let's see what that turns out as. The French army is bigger, or the Franco-Bavarian army is bigger. +1 for the French is 10%. -2 for the Austrians is 10%. I don't know what the amounts are going to be, but obviously the French are going to win with a larger army at the same percentage. Unless it ends up tying. Oh, ow. All right, leaving a unit behind. It's actually a demoralized unit. Let's put a marker there. Doesn't matter, but I mean it does. Maybe kind of under something. We have to siege because we don't have supplies getting into there, but we will if we take the siege. So we'll start that. I get the victory point. Austrians lose one. I deploy yet another Bavarian here. In here, and I'm going to continue on Warn because I don't have the points to recover and attack. I've used up too much so far. This time the larger Austrian force gets away. I'm not allowed to move into any of these spaces. And I'm facing the big old army of Lorraine up there. I think I'm going to use my last action point to fall back. Take those Bavarians back. And then we sweep through, and on the rally segment, we get our Warn marker off of us. And that will move it to the Brits. I have used up too much video by far on that one play. I moved a piece, as I said. That's how it feels. You know, I mean, like with Vietnam, I move a piece, I conduct an operation. Who knows how big it could be, right? Here I play a card. It takes me a half hour, 40 minutes of playtime. Now, it does take me a little longer when I'm discussing things on camera. I throw a lot of bullshit in there, whatever. But, you know, a lot of it was the rules lookups and shit like that. I would say, you know, the add-on is maybe 20-30%, right? Anyway, we're going to plug this in, and we'll come down later and do the British turn. You know, it's like a year takes me a week in this game. It really does to play. Now, what does that all mean? Look, I'm not that, like, minimally experienced, non analysis paralysis player or whatever, but by far. But I think you're getting a feel for, like, minimal experience means, I think, memorizing all the shitty little exceptional special rules. Like, and to me, what he's saying that minimal experience level is, in order to play more quickly and get this done in 12 hours or whatever it would be, basically means you're not going to be making rules lookups all the time. And the rules are so poor, even if they were non-contradictory and unambiguous, they would still be a problematic enough situation. And you can see the amount of rules disputes that come up from the wording on cards and stuff like that. The things that I bring up is pretty close to what I'd expect to come up if, like, a couple of people decided to play this and had opposing views on things here and there. It would be very different if you had a game master who, you know, knew the rules intimately and could speak to them, to any of the players, or if you had the designer sitting at the table helping you, which is what it feels like the level of playtesting was done. It really feels like there's just no way. I mean, even if I was intimately familiar with the game and kept playtesting the same game, I can't see that it would take, you know, a short amount of time, that it would take no lookups or whatever. And I can't see that there wouldn't be a ton of errata generated each time that a playtest set was sent out. It boggles the mind. The group must have not only been incredibly, like, incestuous in the sense that it was the same group always playing the game and that there weren't a lot of different groups being given these roles. But they also must, like, they must have had like one person who was making decisions based on these rules or something. And probably, I don't know. I don't know who to blame, but there's got to be one hell of a sequence of blame here. So you would have imagined that there would be like, I can see the amount of developers that were involved in this game because they kept like throwing their hands up in frustration and saying, "Look, the game's not ready, man." And in terms of playtesters, though, I cannot imagine that a playtest group that did not return lots of corrections, like, played the game even. Now there are people trying to do this. I can see them online with equally, questions that should just be resolved and whatnot. There's hundreds of threads of rules questions and shit like that. Now some of them are maybe repeats, but I know that when I submitted mine, I tried to search to see if any of the important terms were involved, and I'm just dumbfounded. I can't believe this thing got published. And this is the corrected version, okay? I can't even imagine how much worse it must have been. I didn't try. I didn't look at those rules at all. I had heard there was going to be that there was going to be a patch, I guess, because I held off playing this game for a long time. And then when I did get the patch, it came long enough afterwards that I had kind of forgotten that I was expecting a patched set for it. Anyway, why am I doing this? Because I haven't read any other rules. Because I'm reading a good book instead. In what little time that I have that's free of coming down and playing this, and much more importantly, raid, or just watching videos, or sleeping, or whatever else I do in my existence. And now here we are. It's about 11 p.m., a little later. 11:20 on Thursday still, but I'm really finding it hard to come down here and play. I had the door open already. I'd come down to do some garbage or something, and did that. So we're left with the British fall campaign turn. It's just, there's too much effort on what I consider each playing of a piece or of a card, as it were. And now we come to a couple of things. First of all, the Brits could have played the fleet sortie here, no matter what. Now, I don't absolutely need a fleet sortie. It seems like a good idea to hold this card in hand, though. Because I don't have a spare fleet sortie. It's the French who have one. And so I'm holding that off. I'm looking through the British cards, and there's actually nothing I want. Like, I want them all for their effects as an event. And the English army is not that potent. The only real question is, would I be able to do something of value with the Piedmontese army? And, geez, I'm trying to remember, is Piedmont one of the countries that Austria can play, even though it's on the British card? Now I've got to look that up and try to figure that out. And I don't honestly, I think it'll be in the geopolitics, but I may just not be able to find this. Okay, Piedmont is not there. Here we go. It doesn't say anything. I think that they are part, unless they're somewhere else, and maybe there is. God only knows. Because I think it may be in the fucking errata that I already pulled down. the errata to the errata that this game is right now. But given that I don't want to go look it up, I don't want to bother, and I don't have many cards that I want to play, the only one I might want to play is this. Play if Piedmont Fortress is besieged. It's useful. This could be a 3-point card that I play. And then I would have an event that I can play here, an event that I can play here, and I'd be down to only one card. I could play this interrupt, depending on... So there's two things that this depends on. Is this an interrupt? Right? As the assault on Louisburg, or is that only supposed to be the fleet sortie, which is what would seem reasonable, but, you know, whatever. I'm sure it's not covered. I've stopped looking at the notes. They're only historical notes, right? There's nothing gameplay related to them. You might be able to get a little piece of something out of it. This is the one card I might want to play. So let's think about the Spanish in Italy, who are down here. They have 12, 14, 15, 16 strength points. I have almost nothing. I think I could pick up the Austrians, except it would be a larger force. But I might want to just go join them with an administrative march, which I am allowed to do even if I play the card not as a campaign card. How about that? So why don't we do that and go join the Austrian army of Italy with an admin march. We do want to leave a unit behind here in Turin because losing it would suck. And then we just march in and we get rid of the Italian army. And now we have to remember that this guy is Italian or Piedmontese. Oh, I think there's a... Jesus, I think there's a restriction against Piedmont being able to be used with the Austrians. God damn it. And, you know, I'm just left with this. I don't remember where to fucking find this question. I don't want to deal. I just don't want to fucking deal. I'll be back. I gotta go check if this... Because I remember seeing this somewhere, and it's not under Piedmont, so maybe it's in the current errata. So yeah, I came up here and I'm like, ah, shit, there's a lot. Some of them are on cards, which I can't just correct. There's nothing in the rule book I can correct. But I found one. Here, clarification addition to 3.31. Zero-star corps leaders may not command or join forces with other zero-star leaders to create larger forces. I've done that already. Sachs did that. Okay. They have the word addition in there, fine. They shouldn't have clarification in there. It's not a clarification of anything. There's nowhere where it at all explains this. This is just a new rule. Anyway, why I missed that, I don't know. But I'm penciling it in, and I'm looking through to see what else I have. So now we have a clarification 2.1.1, 6.4. How minor forces can be activated by any major power card? Huh? That's not clarifying anything, is it? Let's see. Like, okay, we have the nationality. All of the power in its allies' spaces are considered friendly. The Hungary square spaces may only be... So, here, does allies only mean minor allies? What? I don't know about that. Okay, but none of that, this clarification doesn't help me at all with that. Am I missing something? No. There's a retraction of 7.21 common. Okay, well, but we've got things like 23rd of August, there's a clarification. It's not telling me anything. Okay. Here we go. All right, here we go. 3.34, is that what we're looking at? This may be sort of a table of contents type thing. Having to deal with it in electronic form is painful enough, but there are 8 pages. Now, some of these are sources. So let's say there are 4 pages of actual rules. This header section, I just didn't want to fucking deal with it. Okay. So 7.52 Piedmont clarification. That's the thing I'm looking for. But I think I should note about Piedmont and 7.52 can be ignored. The situation cannot occur after Piedmont allies with the pragmatics. Oh, great. I'm just so fucking sick of this. The event makes Piedmont belligerent. This does not create a formal alliance with the pragmatics. This is done by... okay. What are you talking about? The note about Piedmont after 7... oh, that's here. In theory, subsequently played diplomacy events could shift Piedmont's influence marker back far enough for it to switch sides and join the Bourbon. Okay, well, that's interesting. So I just get rid of that, I guess. It looked like a sensible thing, but okay. That's not what I'm worried about. But this is not what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go through all of these and see if I'm adding anything. This is why I don't want to play. I was unable to find enough here that I wanted to. I don't know why I came here to pick things up. Maurepas Descent. This is a particular card, 16.5, to attempt this. So I'm supposed to add 3 bullets. French get +1 victory point. I'm assuming this is on the fucking card. I'm going to just put a C errata here. This is something I couldn't do if it was the glossy paper, because I can't just fix this. The clarifications I mostly agree with here. They're not really necessary. Like, and that's kind of the thing. I'm left with a whole bunch of questions that aren't covered in here, whereas the things that are kind of like, yeah, okay, we kind of left something out. Like the card. I'm assuming the card has 3 bullet points. It has those 3 bullet points on it, and because it is a card-based thing. And then the rest of it is really just cards corrections, which, fuck that. I just don't have the will. All right, back. I can't find the thing about Piedmont. I think you can't play a card for Piedmont. No, I don't know. I don't know. Let's see if Piedmont is mentioned anywhere else here. Piedmont strategy cards, that's not it. 4.0.2 and 7.5. 7.5 is, I think, what I was looking at, yeah. 4.0.2. Let's see if that helps us here. The British player controls the Piedmont unless Piedmont is a Bourbon ally. Yeah, but that doesn't say they can't stack. Okay, so let's look at stacking. 3.2. Maybe that's where it is. That wouldn't be a bad choice. Spanish Piedmont friction. If Piedmont is a Bourbon ally, Spanish SPs and leaders may never stack with Piedmont. Okay, that's the thing I was thinking of. That's the rule I was looking for. So Austria and Piedmont are perfectly aligned. It's Spain which might end up allied to Piedmont. And they would be anathemic. Anyway, whatever I want. So I can move those forces there and join the Austrians. What I can't do, though, is I can't have 0 star. The only thing I found of any interest was that clarification addition. That was not just a clarification. I kind of look at things like a clarification. I don't need that. I can probably suss it out. The thing about it all, though, is that I kind of assume, and we'll do that movement that I wanted to do. We flip this over. We grab this back. Oh, we already had that there. I think this is what I did. And I move in. No, I don't know where I am. Where's my army? Did I lose my army? I have the Klondike bar here. I can't even find my army now. Ah, fuck. I don't know. I just don't fucking know. I really want to quit. I don't know what happened to my Piedmontese army. Oh, here it is. Here's the army of Italy. Now why do I have Lutrum is under that, Klondike is here, Emmanuel, oh, no. I do need that strength point. They put him in the wrong place. Okay. So Emmanuel will join him along with Lutrum. Now I'll put Lutrum under him to indicate that he's Piedmontese and put these troops here. And I hope I remember what's up with that. That's my admin movement. I'm allowed to do that even if I play for an event. This doesn't really help me. I can't move the Austrian force. So yeah. And here, do I have a 0-star leader mixed in? I do here as well, although these are two separate forces, which is of some importance, but it's getting to me, man. It's getting to me. Like, I'm so much happier when I'm not down here, when I'm not trying to play. And it feels like every game is getting this way for me. I don't know if I'm just picking bad choices or what, but I'm losing my spirit here. So what do I want to do? Cataract, I can't play yet. Okay, well there's that. I got the negotiations. I got a quadruple alliance, which allows me to put a lot of resources. Is Saxon allied? Okay. If Saxony is allied, first of all, they don't have a reinforcement box. So I can't put it there. I don't know where it goes. But if Saxony is allied, which I think they are to us, that means that I probably want to play this. This is 1745 or later after Cataract. Okay, I've got bunches of garbage. I need to move an army. I do not have as many cards as I want. So what is my army going to do? I don't fucking know. Like, I don't want to face this shit. I don't want to face Frederick. I think I'm allowed to discard a navy to build navy, but maybe not now. That's 6 something. 6.10. French and British can discard 1 strategy card per year in order to build fleet sections. They're made either as the event during an event phase or 1 additional discard for the French or British. Yeah, I'm going to hold off till the saved resources phase because it doesn't really help me. Saved resources phase is somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's here. Not at all where I expected it. I'm going to hold off till then because it is a particular time when I get an extra card play. But I honestly don't know that I want to play a card. Right? I don't want to play the fleet sortie. I can't play these. This I could play, but I needed to maneuver into place, and I don't want to fight the Spaniards on my own, which means I have 1 card left. So I am going to pass and hold all my cards. How about that? Because I can't think of a damn thing I want to do with this. Oh, no, I want to move that. Oh, how about that? Or do I? Because those are my Dutch. Okay, let's see the Dutch and Charles. So the Dutch can't take Charles's forces under them. 2, 4, 6, 11. And they're about full strength. Yeah, I just don't think I want to move a piece. All right. Well, that makes it easier. It's still Took me like a half hour to resolve this card. We do hit the rally segment, which gets us around here. It feels so funny. Do I not want to discard a card? I think I discard cards building up forces in that special segment as well. It's so hard to remember anything. So now we come to the event card segment, and each power in turn gets to play a card just as an event. Prussians are going to play the Black Eagle. That requires they discard a card. It's a card they'd like to hold, but it moves the Russian diplomacy automatically one towards the Bourbon, which is just delaying them. Now, there's a theoretical fix that if the Russian diplomacy gets to -3, they come in on the side of Prussia. As it stands, they can't possibly. I don't care either way. It's not going to reach that. So, I've played a lot of the Prussian cards. The thing is, the pragmatics have been doing what they want to do. Let's see about Austria. So the English are going to play Negotiations 2. This is on the Russians on a 1 or 2. Both French and Austria declined. France couldn't play. I don't think Austria could play either. We get a success. So the Russian influence moves 1 towards the pragmatics again. And goes here. These are not one time only, right? They say diplomacy on them. Okay. Oh, that puts me to the attrition thing. And this is the one that fucks everyone over no matter what. So we're going to lose 10% of our troops everywhere and 20% in Italy. And that'll be fun to do. I don't think anybody's out of supply, actually. So I don't have to worry about any of that. If anybody had a short supply marker that they got like stuck on them, they might be in trouble at this point because it would increment. See, the thing is, if they get back in supply, they lose it. So what? But only if they get back in supply, I think, on their own turn when they hit initial supply and the other supply segment, right? Which means that I could get pushed out of supply and never get to check it. Yeah. During a friendly initial or final supply segment. So I can only improve my supply if I'm in a supply segment to do it. And it only worsens. It worsens any time that I'm cut from supply. So it is kind of harsh, potentially. Okay, well, I don't want to do this, but let's start. Forget one thing. A demoralized force loses an extra SP, and we have a demoralized force here. So that will accrue against them. I don't think we have anything else. And it's only major forces, right? Every major force on the map. Yeah. Okay. Shitty thing about the Piedmontese moving in there, first of all, they increased the size of the Austrian army, and therefore caused it to lose 4 strength points total. But the other thing is, the Austrians are in command, and they're just like, okay, well, lose 3 Piedmontese infantry, we'll take 1 Austrian. That keeps the Piedmontese cav in play. Whatever, The English fucked up by moving into there, as far as I can tell. We'll keep working. I did all of Italy. The Spaniards are safe this time, but these guys sure weren't. It doesn't make sense that this not be counted as a single force, because otherwise you could break up any command into like 5-point forces and whatnot and make it all invulnerable. It's got to be in a single space. There may be some rule that combines forces at some point. I don't know, but I vaguely remember something like that, and I'm just too sick to look it up. I think I got one more to do down here. And that gets us to the early winter phase. I don't have the will to keep going. So we will put that off. I'm probably close to time that I should be pissing away anyway on Raid. But yeah, it's just so maybe I'll see you on Friday during the wee hours of the morning or something. Um, or if not, probably not till Sunday. When I hit these points where it's like hard to go, it just becomes horrendous. Um, and with some games, like an EU, I'm like, okay, it's a huge game, and I've been through it a number of times, and I know eventually I get kickstarted back into like, you know, being excited about it because cool shit is happening. Here, I just know I'm going to be facing this again and again. Now, the first time I played EU, I kind of felt that way. I do have to admit. But I wasn't fatigued that first time. It's for a game, and again, it could be my age. It could be all kind of other shit getting in the way at this point. My habits and whatnot have changed. Yeah. Like I have the interwebs all the time now. I did not, during my main gaming segments of my life, until I started videoing, um, I did not have internet particularly. I had a dial-up when I was in my mom's basement, which for a year or two I was not living there, but I would go visit every other week or something, and I'd get to play games at that point. And it was really the only thing that I could do at night, and I was awake during the night and over the summer as well. Um, and then all the periods before that, yeah, I don't know. I just, yeah, I just did not have internet for most of the time. Um, and when I did get it, briefly, uh, I wasn't doing, like, I would, yeah, I got a computer and I ended up playing computer games and looking at shit on the internet and stuff, and I wasn't really doing much else. I really wasn't doing much else. Anyway, uh, at least that I remember. Like it really did kind of suck me in. But having a computer again was a new thing at that point. But now there's just so fucking much. Like I can have videos on all the time, and Raid will eat up as much time as I want it to, much more than I want it to. It turned out that I was an hour early. I spent most of that time watching videos, having another slice of pizza, but decided, well, what the hell? I got like 15 minutes or whatever. I'll come back down. It's not like I have to be there at exactly some time right now. For the winter quarters phase, everybody was pretty much in quarters. The Prussians fell back. I think the French had to fall back. But for the most part, everybody was in a location that's fine. So no winter attrition. I also looked at my winter campaign cards. Only one player has one, the Prussians. I'm doubting I want to do it. It's 3 CPs for a PR bonus activation. Forces must move to a friendly fortress by the end of the turn and suffer 10% attrition. It's that 10% attrition that makes me unhappy. Losing, 3 more strength points. How much is it worth in terms of what I can grab? Well, I could probably grab Glogau and Breslau back. And then they would be friendly fortresses. So, but I'd still take that 10% attrition for having done the action. Unlike the earlier couple winter campaigns we've seen, this one comes with a price, and I don't know. I just don't know. It might be worth it. Now I'm in the saved resources and recruiting phase, and let me just make sure it's what I think it is. Yeah. So I can buy troops or depots. I'm looking at the Prussians right now. I have this is again where you have to make decisions that feel very gamey. I have some cards left. I have 3 cards left. I'm going to draw 10. I have 4 in my hand. I probably want to spend 2 of these, but here's the problem. This one's my major campaign. Maybe I'll play that, right? Maybe. And if played as an event, it's removed from the game. Removed, not marked, right? It's not... What, early winter campaign. Oh, fuck. Yeah, it does say remove here. So, yeah. In addition to being marked off. And I don't know that it needs to be marked because unless some other card is dependent on it. Like I said, there's a cost to that, but maybe I want to play it just to get it out of my hand. I don't have anything that I can play in late winter. I'll get to play 1 event, but I have maneuvers and training. Which is appealing. And that'll allow Triumph of the Will. And another card that I discarded. So the Night March. And unfortunately though, it hurts French morale and improves British morale. Kind of a weird, or Monarch Will or whatever, kind of a weird situation. But the British Monarch Will doesn't look like it's at risk or anything. French doesn't look like it's at risk particularly. I think I'm safe doing so. And that leaves me with, gosh, maybe I don't want to discard any cards. If I didn't want to do the winter campaign, I would probably throw that and get myself a troop. I have enough depots, but I think I'm okay. So I'll hold off with them. Let's do the thinking with the Austrians, which is similar. So the Austrians have a big pile of cards. I'm very unlikely to get anything that I play or discard. Which means if there's anything I want to hold, I can hold it. Now, we've got Louis in charge here, and he's got to fall back. It's possible the French could put a threat on Hanover still, but it's feeling very, very unlikely. So these cards, which I probably wanted to play because they're worth a lot of points, are available for me to dump. Treaty of Dresden, I don't feel particularly a threat from Prussia. I'm willing to get rid of that. I want to get rid of all my cards, to be honest. There is no event segment in the late winter. This will be my event for the early winter. That means I can throw 4 cards. I have plenty of depots. Do I want to grab 4 infantry, or do I want to grab a couple of cav? This is the last of my cav, if I've got my numbers right. I don't have to make the choice now. I'm going to throw all 4 cards. 4 is a lot. Yeah, but I don't get... yeah. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I draw 12 cards, and then I have to discard anything over that. So I don't like getting rid of those if this comes into play, but I don't think it will. So that'll be their call. What about the French? The French have a big pile of cards. They draw 13, can only hold 12. So I too want to get rid of my hand. This kind of sucks. It means, hey, do I really want George shall command? You know, etc. So I'll look at these. I can play this in spring of 44. Now, I get my draw in that spring phase, which sucks. But I think, see, here's the problem. I have this. I threw Prince of Contian. I have this that I kind of want to hold, but I now feel like I'm unable to. But what about Louis? What's up with him? Well, we got to go look at the British discards, since I know it's still in there, and find this, because it's not anywhere in the rules or anything. How long am I forced to? The rest of this year. That's not very long. When do I get screwed? I get screwed here. I got one more chance to take Hanover. So I think I want to keep this card. Fontainebleau. George shall command would be useful at least 2 seasons. I'm going to hold on to this, and I'm going to play this, I think, as my event here. Oh, but I got the choice between these two. So I can give a Spanish victory and enter Austria and Netherlands. This looks more important, to be honest. So we're going to have to... George may not be that big a deal. Allied bickering, nice card and all. So I think I'm going to get rid of 3 of my cards. Because anything I hold means that, yeah, I have more cards that I have to discard. I have more options of what cards I end up getting. But I've got to discard 3 cards anyway. 1 to get me from 13 to 12 because I draw 13. And then 2 more. So I've got a lot of culling going on even if I don't hold cards. So getting rid of 3 cards, do I need a depot? Maybe. I'm going to be getting a lot of troops. I have a boat here. When do I... This is when I buy a boat. One of these cards is a 3 or more, so I'll buy myself a boat. If I can find one. And it comes in next year, so that's cool. And so that's one of these. The other 2, I could get a depot or I could get 2 strength points. I'm going to grab the depot because I'm kind of low on depots. And having one in the bank doesn't seem like a bad idea. Yes, I can discard cards next year for it, but I'm going to have a lot of troops. So that doesn't seem like a big deal. What about the English? The English have a handful of cards, so whatever I discard I may not see. I mean, I may not see it anyway. There's big discard piles now. There weren't in that first discard. So what do I have here? Carteret resigns. I think I really want this card. Quadruple Alliance. I'm not going to be able to play this until 1745. So that's a good one to get rid of. Madonna del Olmo. And Louisburg. Well, we want to play something this turn. And that'll be it. So I will discard 2. That'll get me a fleet. And I am out of depots, but I'm also not huge on troops. I think I'm going to be active, though. So let me grab a depot. I only need 1 for the depot. Up, up, up. And let me grab a fleet marker. If I can find... I am out of fleets. This is not cool. I assume I'm limited by countermix. If I can't figure out some way of making change. So I'll also grab, I guess, a strength point. Not at all. I have this special card that I have to keep track of. So then we go to the player turn segments. I think Prussia is going to indeed launch that winter campaign, but I don't need to bring my full force with me. And notably, Frederick doesn't have to command a very large force. The main reason I don't have to, well, there's Brown here. He has the Army of Lorraine. I got to be able to deal with that. Did another video, and I kind of meant to mention it then. One of my, not really the book discussion normal stuff. I'm doing something weird right now, where I'm kind of doing riffs off of the book I'm reading. But anyway, I was awakened today by someone knocking on my door, and I went outside just now, but you know, this was at like 4 p.m. and I catch them before they leave, and they're parked in my driveway. Had driven over my hose. It was a wrong address thing. They were looking for another address, and it is kind of hard to see them here, but I'm really pissed because they drove up my driveway, which and ran over my hose. Now, I know it probably isn't hurting the hose any, but I try to keep my hose from getting run over. If I expect anyone to come in and drive into my yard, which is basically never, right? Like, people I know, I tell them, don't come up my driveway. Not because of the hose, but because it's kind of not, it's not easy. I've had people get stuck at the bottom of the driveway because there's no pavement there or anything. And I've, you know, it's also, if they have to leave, they're quite often leaving when it's dark or whatever, and there's not great lighting. And you know, it's a hill going down right away. It's kind of almost like a cliff right there, a little tiny one, but it just doesn't seem safe to me. And it's like there's always on-street parking nearby, so I just tell people don't come in my driveway. And the couple of times when I have like a workman come during the day or whatever, and I know that they're going to be driving up my driveway or might, I carefully move my hose out of the way, but otherwise I have it, and I don't know if you can see this, probably not. Kind of if I turn on the light. I have it just, you know, running to my hill where I water this one little tree, and it's like, you know, there's no point in me moving it normally, because no one comes to visit. And they just drive right over it. And it's just like, it pissed me off. Anyway, where am I? For whatever reason, I felt it necessary to babble about that, like so many things in my life. So we are going to do the Prussian action, yeah. Maybe I should get another pipe before I face that. Most of the game I don't mind. The attrition event is painful. The event cards, it feels like a normal CDG, you know, the normal event card phases. But the meat of the game, when you're actually doing the stuff that leads up to playing a campaign card and activating it, every time that I'm facing one of them, I'm like, can I put off the game a little longer? Frederick splits his force. Now this is going to be somewhat obnoxious. I do get some kind of redeployment where I'm able to move some forces around. I don't remember how much. Oh, this one's removed, right? Yeah, I gotta write it down and remove it. I have to write it down in case it means something. And he managed to take both fortresses, took his 10% losses on half his force, which was a couple strength points. But a lot of victory points there. That's 4 more victory points. I put the Prussian total to 4. And with them and the French, we're at 22. That's pretty high. What do I need to win? I don't remember. Now, victory is covered in multiple places, but this is the right one. I'm 1 point short. Huh. No, Charles VII. Screw him. Yeah, I can't win an automatic victory this way. But if the French manage to get Hanover that would be good. They're not going to have a card for it. I can't use my Prussian card to do anything. Plus, there's Louis and all kind of what's his name? Cumberland is up there. So we're not going to get the auto victory, but we're that close. If we had managed to get Charles on the throne, this game could have been over. Because if he had been on the throne, Hanover would have fallen. Well, it depends. The British might have chosen to take the more peaceable, more pacific choice. No one else is moving. The Louisburg card, I can't play yet. I keep forgetting that. It's an interrupt, but I can't play it this year. It's 45. 45 or later. Why am I holding this card? I keep thinking I'm going to play it. You know, yeah, I don't want to hold this. I want to get it in my reshuffle deck. Which means put an extra spring reinforcement in. Just because I think one depot's fine for the Brits. They're not planning on doing much. Although, the Dutch, yeah, okay. And I could have, of course, bought one for Piedmont instead or something. Or bought reinforcements for the Piedmontese, but their army just dissolves. You know? The Austrians eat them. Okay, that puts us on the event card phase then. And what were we going to do here? Not doing that. The only one I'm able to play is the maneuver and training, which does not get written down, but I think has effects on things. The Prussian army rating is now 5. In order to represent this, we flip the Prussian armies over. And we try to remember over here. Triumph of the Will and Night March battle events are allowed to be played. The French go down 1, the British go up 1 on National Will. This is not removed or anything. So there's that. The Austrians, I think everybody kept a card to play, right? Yeah. 1743 or later, I can do that. I'm going to play this. The if played as an event is here. There's a restriction on this. I'm seeing them as separate things, which is kind of how I feel like the interrupt should be, which to me means that the fall of Louisburg is the interrupt, not the fleet sortie, which actually is. So I don't know. I think it's just a normal event. So 10 AU, infantry, 4 cav. I don't have 4 cav, so I can't exchange them the other way. If they were infantry that I was producing, I would be able to exchange them up during the reinforcement segment and get that. But I think this mounting power just goes in the Austrian deck, and I get to keep pulling it and get reinforcements every time it comes around, which is fine. The army sizes are not getting met here. What did the French want to do? They would love to do French renewed commitment, right? Yep, and I'm holding this card because I really want to have that card so that I can get to the automatic victory that I'm close to here. France formally declared war on Britain and Austria, +1 Spanish victory points. That is going to be an event victory point and an extra total victory point. They must have taken. They have Naples, that's why. They gained it as a minor. Bourbon forces may now enter and attack Austrian Netherlands spaces. So I will flip these over, I guess. Austrian Netherlands, not Dutch. 30 French infantry, 5 French cav, and de Saxe gets improved. and I get a bonus activation in the Italian theater, including early winter. It doesn't happen now. I could have played it. I could have played it back here, and it wouldn't have really affected anything. The Austrian couldn't do anything. Yeah, I think I wanted to play this to allow my Spaniards to advance. This doesn't cause any problem in terms of it doesn't cause any kind of attrition or anything in additional to what I had. So let's look at what the Army of Italy is for them. It's 12, 14, 16, 18. Ours is small. What would the activation do? We could move here. He would have an interception attempt then. He has 7 movement. 1, 2, 3. He'd have interceptions all over the place. I don't think the interceptions are affected by the pass, though, so I wouldn't be forced. But I don't really want to fight. I am going to take a bonus activation chit. I'm going to play it now, not during the campaign phase, although it's a very powerful campaign phase thing. Where are the bonus activations? They're hidden by that siege marker. Okay, I have this bonus activation for the French. I'm going to give them that, but I got to put the card somewhere where it happens. And then I got to give them their troops. It's actually going to be the end of the year, so I'm going to take Louis off and put him as a secondary commander because the 2-star leader trumps him as soon as we're not there. Are we? I don't know what the fuck. We did this shit. I don't know why I'm over here. Yeah, we're over here. I'm going to put the Sax on top to help remind me of everything. This does not improve the French army rating, though. I don't know what'll do that. And then I look at the French, and what is this called? Renewed French commitment. That is not in the list that I mark off, which makes sense because it's removed from the game. And I'm going to put that like that. Look at the horde of troops they're going to get. And those are going to go down in the Italian area. I don't know what's up with this. You know, I get the feeling it's supposed to be set up, and it's just not. But we'll play as the rules and cards seem to indicate to us as best as we can. Maybe we'll have cards in our hand that make it clear. But the Conti card and stuff, it seems to me like there's something that prevent, like the way the instructions are for setup, the fact that this is not supposed to be in here, is not noted as being in there, to me means that they're free to go. And the only reason I would have any questions otherwise is if I have the particular card in my hand, and then maybe I'll debate it. Maybe I'll ask Bob. I don't know. That was the French. Now we go to the Angles. And Carteret gets to resign. Not yet. British victory points, are they? Okay, that's strictly less than 0. Which I think we are right now. But we're holding this because we want him out of the game. We're willing to discard an extra card, essentially, for that card. That puts us to the end phase, advanced season, remove all CH markers, remove all guerrillas, all that, and we are in a new year. We're in 1744. Belle-Ile comes back. Saxe is amazing, by the way. Look at him. He's a 4/4. He's got some nasty cards, though, dealing with his situation. We know we're going to get to replenish stuff, We'll put Belle-Île over here. Actually, I don't think he can go there. I think he's got to go somewhere in France. So I'll just put him here for now. But we'll figure out, where people are going to redeploy. That's the end of the 1743B video. What happened? Prussia resurged into here. The French have been handcuffed. I'm trying to remind myself for what's happened so far. To me, the Bourbons are doing really, really well, except for the fact that I can't get Charles VII on the throne. And if I can get to 26 victory points, I'm at 22 right now, which means I'm one short of the having the Emperor victory condition. But if I can get all the way to 26, I can say, screw it. We entered this war illegitimately, really. We're not pushing for Charles being emperor, but we're doing well enough. And it clearly feels like we are. Why is that the case? It seems so weird because Austria, I feel, was doing so well against the Prussians, but they kind of let the French in the back door and all kind of nasty stuff like that. So maybe it's better to buy the Prussians off with the Treaty of Berlin or whatever it is that allows you to get them out of the war in exchange for Silesia. But I was doing so well against them, I thought I could end up with positive victory points, and I had them at some points. But now things have swung so far against me, with Vienna having fallen and all kind of stuff like that. You can see why the Bourbons are doing so well when you start looking at the map. All right, I guess this goes up, and I play some Raid.